Thank you so much for coming tonight. This is a great turnout. I'm Angie Flynn. I am the new Director of School Counseling here at Shrewsbury High School. I've been in the school counseling field for 20 years in another district, but I'm very excited and happy to be here at Shrewsbury. So just a couple of things about tonight's presentation. So we're going to save all the questions until the end of the presentation. There'll be some breakout rooms, and you will be able to attend a breakout session with your child's counselor. And then they can, talk to you about the personal, intimate questions and get down to sort of the nitty-gritty. So we're going to go over several different components tonight. This is our sort of nuts and bolts kickoff to the college application season. So we'll talk a little bit about admission trends. We'll talk about different components of the application. We'll talk about the procedures that are done here at Shrewsbury High. And then, like I said, we'll break you out into smaller groups. Okay. So I have our whole department here. So I'm going to go through, introduce everyone. Or actually, I'm going to have them introduce themselves. So I'm going to start with Mr. I can't even say it.
Yeah, we just met a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
Right? Good evening, everybody. Lee Diamantopoulos, school counselor. Alphabet up there. But yeah, I'll see you all in the breakout.
Evening, Franklin, school counselor.
Hi, everybody. Jessica Rice, end of the alphabet. Cozies, yes.
Hi everyone, my name is Sean Russell. I'm a new school counselor this year. I took over for Judy O'Connor.
Hi everyone, Susie Ariel, and I'm the middle of the alphabet, which is just as cool as the end of the alphabet.
Hi everyone, hope you can see me. JV Lucia, welcome.
Hi everyone, my name is Tammy Young. I'm the new school counselor and I took over for Kathy Floyd.
Hello everyone, my name is Miss Vega. I'm a school counselor and I have the beginning of the alphabet.
Right, so that's our fabulous department. They are experts, so they're going to help you along this process. And then we also have our registrar, Liz Tukas. I'm so bad at names right now. So she's our help. She will send the applications for us. She's a key player in this. And then Martha Murphy is our other secretary up in the office. Okay, so a couple things about our department. So communication is key, right? So we want to make sure that you're getting all the information that you can. So a couple things that can help with this is we have our Counselor Connection, which is our newsletter. I'll be honest, I haven't done a September newsletter yet, so I will get one out in the next couple weeks. It'll be a September-October newsletter. Something new this year that we started is an Instagram account. So if you're on Instagram, please follow us. It's shs.schoolcounseling. We post lots of different tips on there, announcements. We just posted today something about a NIACA college fair at Worcester State that's in person. So please, follow us if you're on Instagram, or make an Instagram account and follow us. We also have our website. Our website is a wealth of resources. It has our calendar, it has SAT, ACT dates, it has our contacts. We put different presentations on there. We'll put this reporting of tonight on there, so that's an also important resource for you as well. And then we also hold morning presentations. There used to be a breakfast. I'm not sure if we can still do that with COVID, but it's October 1st. That's a Friday morning at 8 a.m. And our first topic is going to be demystifying the transcript. So we'll talk about how the transcript plays a role in the college application piece. So these are really important pieces for you to take a look out for. Okay. So one of the programs that we use that's an application tool that's going to be really important for your student is SCORE. From my understanding, this is the second year with SCORE. Naviance is something we used before that. So there's different parts of SCORE. but it really encompasses the whole sort of college application piece. And that's what we use to send different parts of the college application that is our responsibility, such as the transcript, the school profile, letters of recommendation. So different parts of SCORE, just so you can get an idea, is we have the colleges I'm thinking about. So on SCORE, you can research colleges, you can make lists, and it's really important the colleges I'm thinking about, you put that in a list, and then eventually you'll narrow it down to colleges you're applying to. And then from there, that's how we send the individual pieces of the application to school. And we're gonna go over all of this with students in 2 weeks. The week of September 27th, we'll be in English classrooms, and so we'll be going over this with your students. Okay. Next part is college visits. So we have college reps that come in to the high school. We're really fortunate that they're coming in person. So if you go on SCORE, you can sign up and you can see all the different schools and reps that will come in. And this is really important because you want to show some interest. If you're really into a school, you want to show some interest and come and talk to the college admissions rep. So go on to SCORE. I mean, I didn't change this. This is a couple of years ago, but it's all updated in SCORE right now. And you can see, the different schools. We have a range of schools that are coming. So this is really important. You sign up, and then you can come out of class. No problem. The next piece that's, I think, really helpful in SCORE is scattergrams. And the scattergrams piece is just to show your student how they compare to past graduates who have gone into that college from Shrewsbury High School. So you could pull up Boston College, you can see the profile of other students who've got accepted to Boston College from Shrewsbury High. So you obviously can't see names, but you can see their SAT scores or ACT scores and their GPA. And then you can plot yourself using your own scores onto the scattergram. And it gives you a sense of where you fall. So the counselors are available. They can sit with your student and go over this with them. But this is a really helpful tool to see where you kind of fall in line with the different colleges. And then the last piece of SCORE that we use SCORE for is letter of recommendations. So students will request teacher letters on SCORE. They'll go on there, they'll pick the teachers that they want to write them a letter. Teachers submit their letters to SCORE, and then we end up sending it with the transcript, the counselor letter, and the school profile. So we, again, like I said, we will show students how to do all of this in 2 weeks when we're in English classes. So SCORE is a really important piece that kind of wraps the whole college application piece into one. Okay, the next piece that we're going to go over is some college admission trends, and I'm going to hand this over to Mr. Diamantopoulos. I got that right.
Okay, good evening again. So, as you can see on the screen behind me, we've always been updating ourselves with college admission trends each year to share with you and your child. As you can see on the opportunities on the top three bullets there, along with that, we do send a school profile to each college along with your child's transcript, which helps explain Shrewsbury High School and everything from our GPA to demographics, AP scores, etc. I think you'll see a screenshot, a couple slides down the presentation here about that. Our whole school profile is also on our school website, so you can download it there if you want to read it further. Also, I think what Ms. Flynn said is about the college visits is great as well for our students to learn about different colleges. It's great for the admissions counselors to come and learn about our school, interact with our students, and as much as this is a presentation, it's really a back and forth of questions and getting to know each other to see not only for the students if it's a good fit for them, if they want to proceed with visits down the road, but it's a great, again, a learning process for the admissions counselor. As far as challenges, recently there's been a lot of information about different challenges. Part of the reason from the pandemic, Definitely more students are applying to selected colleges. Part of that is test optional, and that does equal lower admission rates. I believe I read an article this morning that said about the common application, which is a single application that you can send out to many schools. The number of applications went up by 11% in 1 year to the amount of colleges out there, and the individual users only went up 2%. So simple math there, more students are applying to more schools. And we see that more in the prestigious, highly competitive schools. So with the application process here, I can't stand up here in front of you and tell you how many schools you should apply to. It's not really my style to make a student do that when we're in one-on-one meetings. But this is usually on average, as you can see, with 5 to 9 schools. I think in my 11 years as a counselor now, my record low is 1 as a student applied, which was early decision, and they were set on that. And my record high was 33. So I'm sure parents, some of you may want to avoid those application fees, which, provide doing research, like it says, 10 to 20 schools, and building off of that, if it's lowering the number or greater. We don't I don't have my students say you need to apply to X amount of schools. We have that conversation. So it's really on a case-by-case basis, which really comes down to conversation between the student, counselor, and obviously involving the parents as well. So it's important that we're all on the same page and coming up with that plan of what the appropriate number is for your child. And don't feel the need to apply to reach schools. If you have mostly target competitive schools and favorable schools by looking at the scattergrams that you saw before, again, SCORE is a great resource, that's okay. So again, it depends on what your goals are as a student and what you're looking for with your plans and how we can make that the best list of schools for you to apply to and make you feel confident about that. And I think the bottom line here is something to star for everybody, looking for the best fit and not necessarily the best brand name. Okay, so I think in our social circles, especially with peers and adults, it's easy to get caught up in that. So I think speaking with the counselor and really doing a deep dive on why that college is of interest to you and why you want to apply there is something that's super important. So you guys can look up here for everyone's reach. Going back to that, the stat of 11% more applications that are out there have driven down the application acceptances. So I know everybody's looking at Harvard up here. In 2019, 2020, Wall Street Journal said they accepted 6.5% of their applicants. Last year, they accepted 3.4%. So that went down, obviously. And with, I think it's Columbia as well, went from 6.1% acceptance to 3.7%. So that's kind of the trend that we're seeing now. Again, we're always trying to keep up with that. It's not exactly certain what's going to happen this year, but that was what was reported the last 2 school years. And then here's nearly everyone's reach as well. Again, super competitive schools. So again, with developing that list, how do we find the best fit here? And I think you have to break it up into these 3 categories of social, financial, and academic. And I think the financial piece comes after students get accepted and families and students see what the bottom line is and what it's going to cost. The breakdown each year and what the total investment is going to be for your family. The social piece, and again with visits, and we can talk more about that in breakout rooms as far as it's so important to get there and take it all in. I always think February break and April break are awesome times to go because we're not in session, schools are in session with colleges, and you can go there and get a sense during the day. I mean, if you come to Shrewsbury High School, I mean, my line is you don't even have to lock the doors. There's always something going on here. But if you want to get a true sense of the school, you come between 7:35 and 2 when we're in session and going to classes. So again, same with colleges. Weekend visits are very helpful, but again, if you can get there during the day, that and again, depending on the schedule of the student and the parents, you guys can obviously figure that out and go on their website and see when tours are available. But again, academic programs on there are obviously important. So if you're undecided, freshman year, that's totally fine to go in undeclared. You don't need to actually decide what you want to do for the rest of your life yet, but there's obviously conversations you can have with your counselor and people within your circle of what you want to explore, what you're interested in. Okay, so we have a short video here from Brandeis University's Waltham, and kind of what they go through their admissions committee when they're talking about students and what they will bring to the table. So we'll watch that, but I think if you're looking for, it says listen for on the left-hand side here, I think halfway down it says building the community. These colleges and universities are really trying to build a community. So as far as GPA or SAT scores, they want to learn more about your child or you students, you as a person, and again, what we bring to the table at their school. And bottom bullet there, met them at the high school. Again, college visits are starting up. I believe our first one is Thursday of this week, and they really pick up more into next week. So students, I know Mrs. Flynn said if you could hear it more than once, look on SCORE. You have to register ahead of time, at least one day, and some of them do fill up quick. So take a look at that. Okay, I'm going to play that here. Is our sound good?
She makes a mark on our community, I think. Even if it wasn't the longest list of extracurriculars I've ever seen, she really, she gets involved and she really makes an impact in each one.
You're getting a behind-the-scenes look at what typically is a closed-door process in the Brandeis University admissions office. Staff members are weighing applications in what's called committee.
He's involved in a lot of different things, and I think could be an interesting addition to the student body. So I was between waitlist and admit.
As a group, they're deciding whether to admit, waitlist, or deny prospective students. But before we go further, let's back up. Before any applications are discussed here, thousands of them start their journey here, in the operations department, where they wait for an admissions staff member like Jen Walker to read them.
Depending on where people like to read their files, it ends up somewhere in our house. So for me, that's the kitchen table.
To offer perspective, Walker read roughly 800 applications last year alone. As the counselors read, the strongest of them are quickly pushed through the acceptance process, while others end up in the committee room.
There's a lot of personal characteristics that feel like a really nice match for Brandeis, knowing that he's visited, knowing that he gets us. I guess I'm sort of making the leap between he's making that connection too.
Well, it's also nice that in his interview write-up, we hear that he'll benefit Brandeis as a whole.
I'll tell you a little secret. When you go through the committee, more often than not, students are offered admission. We look for, again, so many ways on how you as an individual will impact our campus. So for us, there will be so many viewpoints. At some point, if there's enough positive viewpoints, that will sway the committee.
She's ranked at 21% of her class. Every time you open up that folder, it's like you're putting together a puzzle. And you have an essay, and you have a transcript, and you have recommendations, and you're trying to build a picture of another human being.
As a Brandeis alum, admissions counselor Sarah Eric has a good idea of what to look out for while building the community.
I first look at their academic record, but then I'm also looking to see who they are as people. Are they a fit with this institution? Are they going to come here? Are they going to be happy? Are they going to be contributors? Those blocks can be different characteristics, but once you get enough, then maybe you're admitted to Brandeis.
Acceptance letters are eventually signed, stuffed, and sent back to the operations department, where all applicant information is stored. You can think of Zachary Santamaro as the data man.
I'm pretty much the last line of defense as far as making sure that the data that's in our system is accurate. Hasn't been uploaded into the system with a space where a space shouldn't be, a dash where a dash shouldn't be.
In the meantime, Chris Holston takes all of the applicant data and turns it into something tangible. You can call Holston the report guy.
We look in trends over periods of years. So we would look at all the applicants from New York for the past 5 or 10 years and see how their SAT scores have been looking, their grade point averages, things like that nature.
On this day, it was too early for Holston to offer any data on the next Brandeis class, as committee decisions were still in progress. But he's excited to see how the class shapes up, a sentiment shared by all involved in the process.
You see these wonderful students and their families arrive on campus, and you could just sense the the energy that they bring to this campus.
I don't just know their grades, I know their stories. You know, a lot of things come through in recommendations and in essays, and you do sort of fall in love with a few of them and advocate for them and push them through the process. And then when that student is admitted and matriculates, it shows up at Admitted Students Day, and you see them. And I met them over a year ago at their high school, and now they're here. I mean, it's amazing.
And it's all made possible through an application's journey and 3 very special words. Welcome to Brandeis. I'm Marcia McEachern for Brandeis Now.
Okay, I hope that was beneficial for you, and I think a key message to the students in the crowd, you can hear the last admissions counselor that was speaking, they get to know some of their students, so you guys have this in front of you to make these appointments with college visits here, and if a school that you're interested in is not coming, then you can always go visit there and again, engage in conversation and take advantage of opportunities that are presented to you. Okay, I believe, let's go forward. Miss Ariel, you are next. Miss Ariel.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to talk about some of the finer details then of the application process. So you can see here the application itself, letters of recommendation, standardized tests, the school counselor packet, which we have referenced a couple times here already this evening, and then this idea of deadlines. You do want to think about the college application process as a deadline-driven procedure, right? You want to be aware and cognizant of deadlines for not just the application, but for some of the processes that happen in our office too, and we'll get into that. So just to go over the different admissions options, as long as we're talking about those deadlines, it's a good segue. So you'll see up here that there are a variety of ways that students can apply. Regular decision, which is for those in the crowd who went to college 100 years ago, like me, those regular decision deadlines, happened in the late winter and spring. They're still pretty much like that, and you will find those regular decision deadlines January or later. Rolling admission is something that you may hear as you're researching schools, and rolling admissions simply means that as soon as the college or university has all of your materials in hand, they make their decisions as they get the information. So rather than waiting for a firm deadline, they just make their decisions as they get the information. I suppose then it makes sense that if you have a school or two that are rolling admissions, you probably want to get a jump start on that. And so again, see your counselors. So rolling admissions is different than early action. Early action is early deadlines. And years ago, early action used to be seen as kind of a leg up in the process. These days, more and more what we're finding is that early action simply is an early deadline. It's a chance for students and families to get the materials in, get this process over with. So common early deadlines might start as early as November 1st, November 15th, December 1st, December 15th. Those are very common early deadlines, early action. And you can apply to all of your schools early action, none of your schools early action, and there is, I would suggest, some conversation with your counselors around what are those schools that you should apply early to and maybe others that you shouldn't. Okay, because there is still a little bit of a factor to an early application in that you can assume that the kids that are applying early either meet or exceed that college's average profile. So you want to make sure that you're in that category if you're applying early. So again, have those conversations with your counselors because it can be different by school. Early decision is, again, an early deadline, but early decision is a binding agreement. So you need to be very careful about applying to a school early decision. When you do this, you sign a contract with the college that says, if I get accepted, I will withdraw any other applications and I will only go to your school. You're required to sign the contract as a student, as their parent or guardian, and the counselor has to sign that you all agree to these terms. Early decision, I would say, is rare. Out of our entire senior class last year of just under 500 students, I think we had 6 kids do early decision. So it is not something that's common. You're making a commitment really early in the process to not only go to the school, but be able to afford the school, because you won't know about financial aid assistance until much later in the process. So again, talk with your counselors. Make sure you're having those conversations about whether or not early decision is the right choice for you. Again, it is a binding agreement. And then very few schools right now have this last one over here, this restrictive early action. It's sort of a combination of early action and early decision. It's just not binding. But it's very rare. There's very few schools that have restrictive early action. All right? There's a lot of information on that slide, so hold your questions. We'll answer all of them. So we talked about those application deadlines. As I said, early deadlines tend to be November 1st, November 15th, and some in December. State and private college and university deadlines, usually January 1st through mid-April. And if any of you have a California school on your list, their deadlines are very early, sometimes mid to late October and into November. So if any of you are applying to those California universities, see your counselors right away. Okay, so test scores. This is just to give you an overview of when some test dates. We are a testing site for SATs. We are not a testing site for the ACT. So if your child wants to take the ACT, you will need to choose a different location. And there's lots of conversation around test optional. We'll get to that too. So there is this thing called score choice. The College Board allows students, it gives them the option to choose their best set of scores to send to a school if a student wishes to. The nitty-gritty around this, though, is that we usually advise our students not to engage in score choice, and the reason being is that, for one, College Board charges you to do score choice and send a specific set of scores, and we don't want you to spend money if you don't have to. The more important reason, though, is that all colleges will take your best set of scores. So even if you took the SAT 4 times, and your best math score was in May, but your best English and writing score was from December, they will take your best scores. They all do it. They all do it automatically. So we just sometimes don't think this is a necessary step when all colleges tell us that they do it anyway. You know, they want to do what's in your best interest as an applicant. So they take your best scores anyway, but just know that this is a choice. We talked about test optional schools. There is a website, it's called fairtest.org. You can look up your college by name, and it will give you information about whether or not that school is test optional. I would say always defer or double check on the college's website itself, but this is a good place to check to see if a school is test optional. Test optional means that a school is giving you the option to send your scores as it relates to the application process. However, you may want to do a little bit of digging to see if scores are still required if it comes to scholarship consideration and potentially some majors that you might be looking at also are going to request your test scores regardless if their general application process is test optional. So again, if you have questions around this, and especially if you're doing visits, this would be a question for me. Is it test optional across the board? Should I still do it if I'm thinking about scholarships? That would be a great question to ask when you're doing a visit or when a counselor comes here. So sending scores, if you decide that you want to send your test scores for whatever reason, that happens through a student's College Board account. It has to go directly from the College Board to the colleges and universities themselves or through the ACT website. So students self-report their test scores. So this is one of those pieces of the application process that is the student's responsibility. All right, so we keep going. We've talked about the Common App, and the Common App is a very popular application. Over 400 schools in the U.S. take the Common App, which makes it really nice for students. If you're applying to 10 schools and they happen to all take the Common App, the nice piece of that is that you're filling out one application, and then you can send it to multiple schools. Again, you always want to make sure you're checking for additional supplemental requirements for specific schools, but the Common App does allow you to fill out one general application and submit it to multiple colleges and universities. You'll hear the word Common App a lot, okay? And in our workshops, we're going to make sure that most seniors at least have a Common App account started, if they haven't already. So types of applications. Common App. It's completed online. The Common App is an online application. Again, watch for those supplements. There are even some international schools that accept the Common App, so it is a widely used college application. There are school-specific applications also, and some schools, a handful of schools, still accept a school-specific application. Again, usually completed online. And please always keep track of all the usernames and passwords and accounts you're going to create because there are several. So have some way to organize some of those things before you get started. All right, so recommendations. We get a lot of questions about recommendations. I don't know if you can see that really well. So there are a few different recommendations that get sent to colleges. There's the counselor recommendation that all of us write for our students. There is a bio survey that students need to complete, which is in their score accounts. Everyone should have that in their score account. And then you meet with your counselor to go over some of the details in the bio survey, and then we write a letter, upload it to SCORE, and that's one letter of recommendation that goes to the colleges. The other letters belong to the teachers, so all of your students, if they haven't already, should be thinking about teachers they want to approach to ask them to write letters of recommendation. The commonplace is to ask 1 to 2. Again, you probably want to take some cues from some of the applications that you've been researching and looking into, but the most common thing is to ask 1 to 2 teachers. If your student is struggling with coming up, with an idea about who to ask, again, that's another great conversation to have with their counselors. We can help them through that. And just a word of caution about supplemental recommendations. Many times we get questions from students about whether or not they can get a letter from maybe a clergy member, a coach, an advisor to a group that they belong to outside of school. These would be considered supplemental recommendations. And caution does need to be used in both asking and sending these letters, because the colleges really will stick to their own requirements. So if your child sends 4 letters of recommendation, the college only requires 1, chances are they are just going to take the one that's on top, and they may never see those other recommendations. So you really do want to follow the guidelines that the college stipulates. Okay. And a general rule, at least 1 month prior to your earliest deadline for asking for a letter of recommendation. Okay. I think that's it for me. So again, hold your questions. We'll answer anything specific at the end. Thank you.
So hopefully I'm going to tie this all together for you guys before we break into groups. So for us, our procedure is that the students will need to meet with their counselor a minimum of 10 school days prior to the earliest deadline. My recommendation is always, did you not hear me? Is that better? Sorry, I'm used to walking around. It's a little uncomfortable. Stand still. Okay. So students will need to meet with their counselor a minimum of 10 school days prior to their earliest deadline. I always recommend to go over that because you never know if you're out sick, if there's some type of an emergency, we have a fire drill, we miss your class, anything like that. So just for, to be cautious, I will always recommend a little bit more than that. There is a $5 fee per transcript that will come to your school counselor. So again, we will be in the classrooms the last week in September. Every senior will get a checklist that'll have a lot of this information on it. We don't need to write it all down. We will be going over that with them, and that will be coming home, but we just want to explain it to you. So one of the other things to keep in mind is what we posted up here is depending on the deadline, you have to account for weekends and holidays. So for example, if you have a January 1st deadline, you need to meet with us prior to December 13th. So again, just please keep in mind holidays, weekends, things like that. Mid-year and final transcripts. We always get a lot of students who will get nervous and they will come down and email. My school sent me, they haven't an email, they haven't received my mid-year transcript yet. As soon as you request that first transcript from the school counseling office, we automatically send a mid-year transcript and then the final transcript to the school that you decide to attend. There will be a survey, which you do not need to worry about right now, but that will come later on in the spring, which is where you will tell us which school you'll be attending. So again, please, those automatic emails go out. No panicking. We will make sure those mid-year transcripts get out as long as you met with us to send out that initial transcript. As we mentioned, we'll be going in the classrooms the last week in September. We'll be going over Common App, SCORE, and we will also be doing some stress workshops because you're all going to need it after we're done with you tonight. Okay, so forms. So just when you thought you were getting out of homework, all parents in here have homework. If you haven't already filled out the brag sheet, if you could please do that for us, that is very helpful information that we do like to incorporate into letters. So we have copies in the school counseling office. I know for a lot of you, it's in your drive in SCORE, under the My Drive, and you can also find it on the school counseling website. And who doesn't want to brag about their student? So have fun with it. So here is a copy of the transcript, just so you guys can see what that looks like. So when it gets sent out, it's broken down into 4 components. So it's got each grade, and then it's broken down into semesters. So students will always ask us, are my mid-year exams going to be on there? Are my final exams going to be on there? The only grades that show up on a transcript are the semester 1 and semester 2 final grades. So this is the exact document that gets sent to the colleges as part of our packet. We talked a lot about the school profile, so this, I know it's blurry, but this is sort of an example and it has tons of information for the colleges. And then for any student athletes in the building, Division I or Division II, you must register with the NCAA, and then you will let us know, and Mrs. Pakauskas will send off a transcript. So that's a whole separate part of the application if you are going to be playing Division I or Division II sports at the college level. Those of you that may have IEPs or 504 plans, please talk to your school counselor about if you're going to send them or not, but it is up to you to obtain those documents and send them directly to the colleges. We will help you as to where to go get them, and again, that'll all be on that checklist I mentioned earlier. This is just part of the admissions application if you opt to send your IEP or 504 plan, if that pertains to you. Once you matriculate to a specific school, you then must self-identify into their student service office. So then again, you will show up there and you will say, hi, my name is, and then they will work with you on what services they can provide. As you're doing your research, if you are a student that is in need of services, this is really important to find out what that school offers. Some schools offer more support than others. So again, if that pertains to you, you really want to check that out. All right, and the role that we all have, because we all have a piece of this puzzle. So students, you must make an appointment with your school counselor. Make sure you're registered and sending SATs, ACTs if you opt to. It's your responsibility to discuss in person with your teachers, those that you're requesting letters of recommendation from, and then we're putting their request in score. And again, we will go over all of this with you, making sure you're meeting all of your deadlines and submit your application. You do not have to wait for your meeting with us to submit the application. So if you are ready and you want to hit that button, by all means, go ahead. You can do it as early as you need to, but please make sure you're following the deadlines. Starting next week, Mondays through Thursdays, there will be 2 counselors at all 3 lunches at a table to answer quick questions. So if you have something that you just need a quick answer to, we will be available to answer those during lunches starting next week through right now, probably November. All right, and there is a college and career portfolio that's in your Schoology resource folder, so you can also access that. Parents, for you, important that you are having conversations at home throughout the process, helping your child to schedule visits. Please remember, this is their process. They are the ones going off to college. The best advice I ever heard that we now say every single year, pick a day, any day of the week, make that your one day to have a college conversation. Because if one parent saying, Johnny, what did you do? You know, it's in the kitchen getting something to drink, and then goes into the living room, and then the other parent says, hey, where were you on that application? You're probably gonna get an eye roll at that point, and not much information. So if you guys can pick one day a week, if it's a Sunday night dinner or whatever works for your family, and make that the time you come together and have updates. So students, you have updates for your family. Parents, you have grandparents, you have questions for your student, and then that way you will all be a lot less frazzled through this process. So I cannot encourage that enough. Making sure that you're talking through this process together, but remembering it is your child's process. And then for us, you've heard a lot about the counselor packet that we will be sending out, and again, more information to the students directly will be coming. And it has a nice little triangle, and we are all part of it. We're in this together. And I am going to turn it back over to Mrs. Bloom.
Okay, next steps. Before I get to financial aid, which is really quick, I do want to stress that this is such an individualized process. So please make sure you utilize your counselors, make appointments. There's different strategies for different types of schools you apply to. You know, you look at your academic profile and what schools best fit. The other piece of advice I can say, over all my years of doing this, make sure you get on the campus and do you feel like you can be a student there? Do you feel like you fit in? And I would say most people know that within 5 to 10 minutes. I've had students in the past, they really want to go to, let's say, BC. They don't go visit, they get on that campus, and they end up transferring. So just get on the campus and just trust your gut. Do you like it here? Do you feel like you can be here? So that's a big piece of advice I tell every student. Financial aid night. So MIFA is not doing in-person events yet, but they do have virtual events that you can go on. This will be all about the FAFSA, and that's how you apply for federal financial aid. We also have local scholarships that will be available in the spring, so we'll talk about that in the spring. But if you want to go to mifa.org/events, go on there, and they list a ton of different options for virtual MIFA workshops, and they'll walk you right through how to fill out the FAFSA. It's basically their whole program that they would do in person, but they just tape it or they do it online. It is very helpful. I've had parents in the past also call MIFA and get one-on-one appointments. So, depending if that's something you need. Okay, so we're gonna move to our breakout sessions. Thank you so much for attending. So we're gonna break out, as you can see, I'll kind of float around, but myself, Mr. Russell, Mr. Flynn, and Mrs. Lucier in the presentation room.